I love tech. For as long as I can remember, I've been following all the latest innovations and trends in this space. But especially in consumer technology, I feel like things have gotten a little bit stale over the past couple of years. But with innovations in AI and other products on the horizon, I feel like tech is finally getting exciting again. So let's talk about where we're coming from and what the most important upcoming products are. Okay, so what's the status quo? In the past 5 to 10 years, it's not like there haven't been any big breakthroughs. For example, we've had the first reusable rocket launch and land successfully. We had the rise of cryptocurrency, that is definitely a great technology. And we also had mRNA vaccines for COVID. That was the first time they were successfully widely adopted. In the space of consumer technology, we had the first tablet computers, smartwatches, wide adoption of EVs, and also smart home tech that has gotten way better, just to name a few. But especially if we zoom in on the past 5 years, I think it paints a clear picture why I think it has slowed down a little bit. For example, smartphones have not changed a lot, so the screen technology was the same back in 2018. It was the launch of the iPhone XS, which of course was not as impressive as the iPhone 14 or 14 Pro, but it still had a good camera. It has an OLED screen that's very sharp. It has almost no bezels, and yeah, it just looks almost the same as smartphones nowadays. We had the launch of the iPad Pro in 2018 that was also basically the same design we're still using now, and also the capabilities are almost the same, so there hasn't been a lot of change. If we look at computers, also they haven't changed a lot either. For example, if you look at a XPS 13 from Dell from 2018, it looks very close to the models they have nowadays. Of course, we had Apple Silicon, which brought great leaps in performance and battery life, but in general, like, the devices feel the same and there hasn't been a lot of change. But I think there's a lot on the horizon that's very exciting, so let's talk about that. First up, of course, we have to talk about AI. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's a very, very big topic and there are a lot of videos out there already. Maybe I'll even make a separate one in the future, but for now, I just want to name the most important improvements I've seen. So in general, I think AI makes like annoying and repetitive tasks much easier. If we look at Google, for example, they announced a lot at the I/O conference. For example, a feature for Gmail that will help you write emails right in the app. So you can just give it a short prompt and it will basically give you a whole email, which I find kind of funny because as most people use email, I think that then we will just basically have AIs writing each other, but it's definitely something that will save you a lot of time. Also in photos, they will basically have an AI editor that lets you place objects in different spots and it will just fill out the image for you, or you can just change the lighting really easily, so that will just make photo editing much easier. Then of course they have Google Bard, which I cannot test unfortunately because I'm in Europe, but I heard that it's really good and they have improved it a lot. And then they have Duet AI, which will basically help you create slides, spreadsheets, everything basically in the document space will be much easier and automated just from a few prompts again. Basically, they will just integrate AI more deeply into all of their products and then make them work better together. So you will even have AI in search, which is also really exciting. And yeah, it will take a few months to roll out, but I'm really excited to see what they come up with. Also, we have to talk about OpenAI, which is kind of the company that made this whole thing so big in the first place. ChatGPT is really impressive and I think most people have tried it out by now. Especially with GPT-4, you can write code, you can write essays, you can basically do anything you want to do that's generative text and doesn't require a lot of original thinking. They also announced plugins that will integrate with other services, so that will make it much more useful as well. And they also launched an iOS app in the US already. So it's just all going really fast and there's a lot of stuff coming up in this space. Then also I just want to quickly talk about Midjourney, which is an image generation tool. I've seen some crazy stuff online which looks really good, and with every version it gets so much better, even when it was already so impressive before. So I think that will just make generating images much easier, because like taking images with a camera and like setting up the lighting and everything is really expensive. And so that will just make it much easier for like smaller companies to generate original content, depending on whether or not you think it can be defined as original content. But yeah, the legislators are still deciding on that. Overall, I'm just very excited to see what use cases people and companies can come up with so we can integrate it more into our day-to-day life and make it actually useful for stuff that's usually more annoying. I think with all of the improvements, there will be more and more stuff that comes up, and I'm very excited for that. Also, I think it will make coding more accessible to everyone. For now, it's still flawed sometimes and it doesn't really understand, but with the models improving, I think it will make just making an app or launching a website much easier, and that's something that's really cool and I think will give a lot of opportunity to a lot of people. Of course, it will be important to also talk about safety and the biases that AI still sometimes has, but I think Google has talked a lot about it and OpenAI is also very committed, so I'm hopeful that it will be good and that we will be using it without having major safety concerns, because they will make sure that it's safe and doesn't have like bad biases. I think that this technology can really help probably in any industry in some way, and so the companies that find out ways to use it the quickest will probably be the ones that are winning in this race. So yeah, I'm just excited to see what's coming up and to see where it all goes. Next up, I'm really excited about the rise of tablet computing. I think that the iPad has been the best tablet in terms of hardware for a long time now, and there is not really a lot left to improve. But the software is really lacking and still limiting for most of the people that are trying to make it work as their sole computer. So I think with the recent announcement of Final Cut and Logic, for example, and WWDC coming up, I think there will be a lot more improvements and maybe it will make the iPad more useful as like a general computing device. I have tried to use the iPad as my only computer for a few months in the past, but I think it didn't really work out because there were still too many limitations and it was just too annoying to use sometimes. So I really hope that we continue to go in this direction, and it seems like we are. With the iPad now having basically power parity with the Mac, so the MacBook Air is just as powerful as an iPad Pro, it should really be able to do the same things, and I'm just very excited to see the launch of Pro apps next week and then also WWDC and what improvements it might bring. Tablets just have this direct interaction with the screen, and you can also just use them very flexibly, which makes them so cool, and I hope that basically in a few years we will be able to use a tablet for everything and just use the right accessories depending on the work we're trying to do. So we just have one main device that can be used with a monitor, as a laptop, or in our hand, maybe even fold, and so that could be really cool. With Final Cut and Logic, I'm excited to see how much of the Mac version will be in the iPad version, but I'm very hopeful, and I think it will be hopefully a very great WWDC for the iPad as well. We've also seen Apple doing more work in this direction since last year with the announcement of Stage Manager. Of course, it hasn't been really great so far, but I think just them doing it shows that they are committed to going into this direction, and I'm very excited to see where tablets can go. There have been rumors about a larger iPad maybe coming next year, so that will make it more useful to more people as well. And also Google is entering back into the tablet space. They haven't really been pursuing the laptop replacement route so far, but I think just them showing that they still invest in this space is a good sign. So with more and more news in the tablet space, I'm really excited to see what's coming up, and I think that maybe we can finally sometime in the next couple of years land on this dream future where we have one device that's like a touchscreen device, very easy to use in your hand, but can also be docked and basically act as a desktop computer. I think it's a really cool idea and feels really futuristic when you think about it, so I'm excited to see whether we actually get there and what the next couple of years have in store for tablets. Okay, folding phones. In the beginning, I was very skeptic because the display seemed very delicate and broke easily, and I think that's still an issue, but I still think that it could be useful to have a smartphone-sized device that can basically unfold into an iPad mini. Samsung has been doing it now for years, and I have already seen some people use their devices in the real world, so I think there's definitely interest. They just have to get the technology right for the folding screen in the middle so that it doesn't break after like 1 year. So that's the biggest issue right now, but I'm sure that if we can get the technology right, this will be really cool. Google has also recently announced their own folding phone, the Pixel Fold. That's a much more useful aspect ratio, I think, especially if you haven't opened it up. So Samsung devices like the Z Fold are always very tall and have a weird aspect ratio, which I have never tried them, but I imagine that it would be hard to just use them as a normal phone. But with the new Pixel Fold, I think that this will maybe spark like a new generation of foldables that's more useful and thinner also. Apple is also allegedly doing some testing on folding phones and iPads. And I think as soon as we get the technology to be more reliable and more durable, this will be a great innovation and just really cool to basically have an iPad mini with you in your pocket at all times. I definitely hope that we can get to folding phones that are very reliable within the next couple of years, because I absolutely want a folding iPhone or iPad, and I just want to see what Apple would come up with, but I think they won't enter the space until it's not very mature and reliable, because that's what they usually do. So yeah, I'm excited. Maybe I'll try out the Google Pixel Fold, but in general, a lot of development in this space and I'm very excited about it. Self-driving cars are kind of a tough one, because I think especially with Tesla making very ambitious timelines, but also other startups in the space making very, very bold promises, we all expected it to go faster, but it turned out to be harder than everyone expected. But recently we finally have gotten some cool news in the space. So Mercedes is already approved for a level 3 system, which means basically that you can do something else, for example text or play games while you're being driven. It's still limited to only 60 kilometers an hour, but I still think that's an exciting development, because I think that that's the future we all wanted, to basically be able to do something else and not still have to watch the road and like hold the steering wheel. Even though that is great, it's much cooler to be able to use the time when you're driving for something else. BMW has announced some exciting things in the space as well. So with their new 5 Series, you will be able to drive at motorway speeds on the motorway without having to hold the steering wheel. You will not be allowed to do something else in the meantime, but still it's a really cool development and I hope that we can get there, and it makes me excited to see what's to come. And then we also have to talk about VR when we talk about upcoming tech that's very exciting. So there have been more and more products coming out in the space. For example, Meta launched their Meta Quest Pro, which is like their flagship headset with better specs than they used to have before. And I think there have been some cool use cases shown. I like the one where you have like virtual screens for your laptop so you can work more easily on the go. But it's still very early in development, and the best use case still so far that I've seen is still gaming probably. In general, I think the biggest issues are still the software, because we just don't really know what to do with them as like normal consumers, and also the comfort, because I don't know, even with the virtual screens, which is like the coolest use case in my opinion so far, I don't know if I would want to work with like a headset on for the whole time. And maybe I would still just use my laptop instead, because I don't want to like have ski goggles on the whole day. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe it will improve and hopefully they will get lighter and then go into the direction of AR in the future as well. So I think there's a lot going on in this space, which is really cool. And of course we also expect Apple to launch their own headset, which I hope that they can come up with some good use cases for it, because that's usually what they do really well. But also it's supposed to have like an external battery, which is not so cool I think, and also it's supposed to cost like $3,000. So we'll see we'll see how well they do with that, but still it's an exciting space. I'm more excited about AR, but I think VR is kind of the precursor and lays a lot of the groundwork for AR. And AR glasses would be really cool, so I hope that they can improve the technology and get it to the point where it's ready for AR and mass adoption. So I'm not super excited about the stuff that's on the market right now so far, because it's just not really appealing to me, but I think that it could be a really cool innovation in the future and could make life a lot easier. I'm definitely going to be watching to see where it goes and see whether they can make it useful in day-to-day life. And who knows, maybe we'll have AR glasses in 5 years, or I don't know, all work with a headset on all day. Who knows, maybe if it's more comfortable, I don't know. Okay, so those were all of the technologies I'm excited about right now. I hope maybe there was something new for you in there, or if you have something else that I've missed, just let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel to help me out, and see you in the next one.